So with that, we're gonna take Ben. Pronouns are any. In Ohio. Ben, you are live on the line. What's going on?
Yeah, so basically, I, if, so I've like had feelings of like wanting to be a woman and stuff since I was in like elementary school and all of this. And then like a few years ago, I told my parents, but I've still had these feelings and I like get upset when I see like trans people because I want to be happy like they are. And I just don't know where to start to like do that because I think I definitely am, but I just don't know where to start or what to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big question. I think something that we've said on the show to similar callers before has been to like sort of break down those steps maybe and not try to make it seem like you are committing to like transitioning, to the fullest extent or whatever that means to you. Maybe break it down into more things like, oh, like I would be more comfortable if I like didn't have facial hair or if I had longer hair. Um
Yeah,
and sort
I've
of
I've like grown my hair out and shaved my face and stuff like that. Like I like all the social stuff. It's not a problem for me. I can do that. It's just like any of like the like hormones, things like that, that I want to like look at or discuss with someone, but I don't know who to talk to. I don't know like what doctors to go to or like what kind of doctor to go to.
Do you have Planned Parenthood anywhere near you?
Um, Maybe I haven't checked. I just recently moved in with my brother,
Okay.
so
Yeah, that would be the first thing I would recommend, would be to see where the nearest Planned Parenthood is, because they will provide informed consent hormones. If you feel fairly confident that that's the next step that you're ready to take, I mean, even if you go
yeah,
seeking hormones, you might just get your testosterone blockers at first if you're really wanting to tiptoe your way into it. But like Planned Parenthood will do informed consent care, and they'll do the sliding scale thing if you don't have insurance. So I'd say start there.
yeah. I have insurance, but I'm still dependent on my parents. 'Cause I'm only 20, so
Mhm.
I still am under with my parents, and I also have to like talk with them about it because they're really like hesitant about it. They're like conservative, and my dad has said some things that also make me scared to go on with anything. Because he said like I was talking about trans people or whatever, and if I transition or whatever, then he said like, "Oh, you're gonna be a freak woman with tits and a dick and shit," and it like made me really upset. And so I'm also scared to do anything because I'm afraid how he'll react. My mom is not like that, but my dad is like that. So I don't know how to go about it with them either.
Do you need to? Like, are they paying for your doctor's visits or
Yeah,
anything, something like that? Okay.
yeah. I'm dependent on them, but I don't. I like I've had a job and stuff. I can like get a job, but like the house I live in is paid. They own and all that, and I can't. Like you can't buy a house now. Like so it'd be really hard to like not have some dependency on them because I'm still only 20 and all my medical stuff and everything, my car, everything's owned by them. So if something happened where like they wanted to kick me out, they could, and then I'd be homeless. So
if you have insurance, it shouldn't pop up on like a bill for them like Ben is getting hormones I see here on the itemized list. So like if you have insurance, I think you could go to Planned Parenthood, or if you have a general doctor in your area, you should be able to go to them and explain the situation. And I'm willing to bet 9 out of 10 general medical providers, but definitely a Planned Parenthood, are going to be completely understanding of the situation and willing to help you try.
well, my mom and I talked about it, and like I just recently moved out, and she was like, I just want you to talk to me. She wants me to talk to her about any of that before I do any of it because she doesn't want to come here and be surprised that I like did a big like thing like that without like without discussing it with her. And like I understand, like I don't want to just secretly do things like that
I
and
think
surprise my parents like because we have a good relationship. We're not like in a bad relationship. My dad says some things sometimes, but it's just because he's like ignorant of some stuff, and I have a good relationship with them, and I don't want to like break trust or anything with them.
Well,
That's why it's like hard.
I appreciate that. And I think it's fair that your mom doesn't want you to do things without talking to her. I can appreciate that she would want to be included. I think it's really important to note that, like, they aren't owed that. Like, there comes
Yeah.
a point as an adult, and I went through the same thing where early adulthood, I was still on my parents' insurance for a while, and I felt like I didn't know how to go about pursuing trans healthcare while I was in some sense dependent on them. I felt I was definitely in a very similar position to you, but I can tell you the thing that I had to work on really hard with a therapist is learning that as an adult there comes a point where you stop telling your parents everything that's going on in your life. That's just an aspect of growing up. You're going to stop divulging everything to them, and they aren't owed everything, and eventually they're going to come around to understand that. I think it's fair to maybe be like, "Hey, this is something I'm like you shouldn't be asking for permission from your parents," is basically what I'm trying
Well,
to get at.
obviously my mom knows that like the final decision's up to me because I'm an adult. She knows that because I've like decided to do things on my own, and she's like, "You're an adult. You can make that decision if you want to, like get tattoos, things like that." She's like, "If you're an adult and you pay for it or whatever, like it's fine." There's just some things like because I'm under the insurance, and if I have to pay for something, she has to approve before she's willing to pay for it because I'm still dependent on them. That's why it's like difficult.
Well, you said you have a job,
Yeah.
right? So you do have some income.
Huh?
You've got some income?
I currently don't have a job because I just recently moved into
Okay.
the house that my brother's staying in, but they own this house. It's just like farther away, or if he
Sure.
goes to school, but they own this house, so like I'm still dependent on them for like a place to live.
Sure. So I will say, so hormones are not very expensive anyway. Um, you know, it's like what, like $10 a month for the pills if you start taking estrogen. Like there's generics. It's very inexpensive. You could
Mhm.
easily start hormones, and the changes are going to be slow enough that you could probably keep it private for a while. But I will say, if you don't want to, risk that situation, I completely understand. My advice is going to be just work on this project of you becoming independent, because you're 20 years old. Like, you can get a job, like you can get, even if it's a kind of a crappy job, you can get a job
Yeah,
and save up some money, because
I
you
don't
don't really
know.
have any high expenses right now, because you live in a place that's taken care of by your parents. So as long as you're really responsible with your money and you save it, you should be able to get out pretty quickly. And I would say you could get an app like, I think it's called Lex. It's ostensibly a dating app, but a lot of queer people connect on there for housing. So if you want to, you could also pursue like finding other trans women who are like in need of a roommate, and like just bit by bit, just start working your way there.
Yeah, I have to figure that out to be close because part of the reason I moved down here is to help my brother because he's disabled and he can't like cook or anything for himself because he gets tired really quick. So it's like I don't want to move super far away from him because I want to help him with stuff because he that's good for him to have me around. So that's part of the reason I moved down here. But I am more independent down here. I can do all that. I just want to make sure I can also help my brother while also helping myself.
I want to drop something on you about your relationship with your parents that might be kind of difficult for you to hear. Your relationship with your parents has already been damaged because they have done damage to your relationship. Like, your dad has made it clear that he's not willing to accept you being trans. He's going to use
Well,
degrading language to speak about you, and he has used degrading language to speak about you. And your mother, on some level, feels a sense of ownership over your body and your decisions. Because what do you think is going to happen in a conversation that you have with her if you try to clear it with her or let her know before you start like medical transition? Like envision, your mom better than I do. I don't know her. What do you think that
yeah,
conversation is going to look like?
well, personally, I think at the end of the day, like, she'll like say, well, maybe I don't think it's the best choice, but you can choose because you're an adult. Because she is all about like I can make my own decisions as an adult. My dad, like, I don't feel like he's bad, like horrible. He's made some comments like that and stuff, but but he's been more reasonable. Like that was a while ago. He's been more reasonable. I can tell he wants to understand. It's just hard for him to understand. So sometimes that type of stuff comes out, but he does listen to me when I talk to him about stuff. He does try and
Good.
understand. So I don't think they're trying to be malicious or trying to make things bad. I just think they are ignorant and don't fully understand right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case for a lot of conservative people and conservative family. I can, you know, likewise, my dad is a pretty hardline, bigoted person. He's not the greatest guy I've ever met. We went through a long period of not talking, especially around the beginning of my transition, because he was so just unable to be respectful of me. And we've since been able to kind of reform a relationship, but it is very, very, very surface level. And I think that's unfortunately the experience that a lot of trans people go through. And I appreciate you wanting to maintain the relationship. I think you can do that. But I think what it's going to require is you. I'm not trying to shit on your dad. I understand the impulse to defend your family. But my point is that, like,
it's going to be a process.
Yeah,
it's going to take time.
You have to really learn to set boundaries and, like, understand that, like, your transition and your well-being is not anyone else's approval. Like, you know, none of that should even factor into this conversation. I understand the impulse to. It is a human impulse to consider your parents' feelings and thoughts about something like this, but it is a flawed instinct, and you shouldn't listen to it because it's going to keep you from doing what's right for yourself because you're thinking about what your parents are going to approve of. And, you know, yeah, I don't know. Even the position of your mom reminds me of some things that I was told early in transition that I agree. She probably is going to ultimately say, you know, you're my kid and I love you and that's what matters most to me. That's probably true. But that doesn't.
I've talked to her about it. That's exactly what she said before. It's like, even if you do transition in the future, like, you're still my child and I'm going to love you no matter what you do. You're still going to be my child, whether you're girl, boy, trans, whatever.
But
they have already expressed.
But my point that I'm trying to get at, though, is that I'm not sure that is the best dynamic for, like, you want to be open with your parents about going through this process, right? But they're already starting. And even if your mom is more accepting and you feel more comfortable with her because of that, she's already kind of starting on a foot of, like, tacit disapproval of your actions, right? So I think
I want to point out, like, you have your own insecurity about this. Like, you, on some level, are worried about losing your housing because you are worried that your parents might kick you out. Like, that is an underlying, like, fear that I don't know that you've fully reconciled with, but you've mentioned on this call. You keep saying you're worried about what they're going to say because of your housing situation, which inherently is telling me that, you know, on some level, that you're not sure whether it's going to go well or not, you know? And so you're just going to have to keep chipping away at this, like, slowly over time if you want to. But, like, don't let your relationship with your parents and the fact that that's a process stop you from making the changes that you need to make. You know, it's not that hard to start, like, hormones in a state that has informed consent, which I think Ohio does. If you can go to Planned Parenthood, like, these are two separate questions, basically. Like, the question of when do you start transition, how do you start, versus how do I navigate my relationship with my parents? Like, these are two separate things. They're going to have to happen on their own timeline. Your mom, like, could be very accepting, or she could become the kind of person who does a bunch of research and brings you a bunch of misinformation about how you're going to have breast cancer or something, you know, like, who knows how that's going to go.
When I first brought it up, they brought the rapid onset gender dysphoria study. Like, but then they realized later it was bumped, but that was the first thing they brought because they didn't understand, like, anything at all. Now they understand more, but
good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Lux.
Yeah.
I think that you have to just allow these things to exist on their own timeline. But I really think, look, it's difficult. There's always going to be an interest for most people in maintaining a relationship with their parents. Not everyone's going to be comfortable just cutting off their family. I've done that, and it was definitely the right move for me. But it's not going to be the right move for every single person. And I think you just, I don't know. I think you really need to start advocating for yourself, especially now that you're in this new area. I don't think you need to tell them or inform them or ask for their permission to seek out beginning treatment. You know, if you dip your toe in and you're like, wow, this is definitely right for me, I want to let them know what's going on. Great. But it shouldn't be I want to start this process, Mom. I'm kind of like asking for your permission, sort of like, I want to, I want your approval before I do it. Because that is always going to lead you to be disappointed when you're waiting for other people's approval on your identity. You got to make those decisions for yourself and understand where you're at.
Okay.
You can do it, Ben. I believe in you.
That's a lot to think about. What was that app that you said to look at?
Lex? I think it's Lex. Yeah.
Lex. Like Lex Luthor?
Okay, I got that up now.
Cool.
Okay, thank you for your tips and all stuff. I might call back later if I have any more questions about stuff next week or later after that.
Sure.
Yeah,
please
keep us
do.
updated.
Thank you so much, Ben.
All right, thank you for all your advice. It really
Good luck.
helps me, and I really appreciate it.
No worries.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow. I'm the executive producer of The Line. And at night, I sneak into Matt Dillahunty's house and I trade his cereals for other cereals. He comes out and he's like, wait, these are cereals I buy, but I swear I had different cereals. Anyway, would you like to support this channel or any specific show? You can do so over on Patreon or in channel memberships. There are special tiers for special shows or for the channel at large, and it helps us expand programming as well as hopefully very soon launch it in podcast form. Now, also, if you'd like to support, you can like, you can subscribe, you can leave a comment or a super thanks, which is a special highlighted comment that you pay for. Those are fun. And, screw the algorithm, go check out something over here, I suppose. Boy, I hope I can still put those icons there, because if I can't, this is going to look really stupid. I'm going to go buy some Cocoa Puffs and switch out Matt's mini wheats now.